and welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snidbits, Black Girl, Mr. Marvelite, all the movie things, the pre-review with Super Kami Guru, and me, the Real Study movie voice guy. Let's go to the post.
How's it going, Real?
And welcome to episode 4 of The Real Study. I am Mr. Snidbits, and with me today we've got Black Girl Marvel. Say hello. We've got all the movie things. And then we've got Mr. Marvelite. Hey guys, how you guys doing this week?
Peachy.
Peachy, yeah.
Peachy.
It's an interesting week. Yeah. We are doing some horror movies this week. We were not here last week due to tons of technical difficulties, but we are back and solid and strong. This week we're going to be doing Mandy. We'll be doing Tucker and Dale versus Evil, as well as Nightbreed, and just subscribed at Tier 1. Thank you so much for that. That was very awesome of you. Thank you. Next week, we will also be doing Dune, which comes out on HBO Max as well as in theaters. So view it at your leisure, and we will all be reviewing that and a few other movies next week, which you guys can find on our promos as they come out. Hello to everyone. We'll go over to the chatting wall where we'll say hi to everybody one more time. And how did you guys feel about this week's movies?
Well, Mr. Marvelite feels strongly about it.
I know.
This week just did not hit me well. This did not.
Well, we got to have one contrarian in the bunch. So
yeah.
I mean, it's usually Smitty, so it's nice to different shades of face.
It is usually me. Yeah,
I
usually
love them all pretty much.
You liked all three of these?
I think so. Yeah, I definitely have like a rank of each one, but I like one I like better. Some I like more than the others, but
sure,
I really enjoyed all of them. So
that's awesome. And welcome to. We've got more people showing up in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. Why don't we step right into it? Why don't we go in the order we have them? We'll go with Mandy first, since it is kind of the most visceral of the films. We'll get that one out of the way and lead into some. Well, I guess there's two pretty visceral films. Nightbreed's also a bit dark. So Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage. He's pretty much the big name in the film. I didn't recognize anybody else personally. I don't know if you guys recognize any of the other actors. But it's not your average everyday film. It's definitely cerebral in nature. A lot of long shots that are trying to portray a lot of visuals and a lot of thought process is what I got from it. Not for everybody. Really gross. Really harsh. Like a trigger movie. If you have problems with certain things, without a doubt, we always try to warn people on that one. And oh, hey, thanks for the podcast review. That's awesome, Ray. We really appreciate that. That's very, very cool of you. That being said, I don't mind movies that are visceral like this. To me, the feelings that you get, the kind of sickness that you feel in your stomach, helps portray what the characters are feeling. And I felt very attached to the Nicolas Cage character in this because of what he went through. And so for me, this was definitely the kind of movie that gets my attention. It is a little slow paced, but I think that's purposeful. I think that pace is to make everything feel a little drony, like it's meant to kind of drone on in a way. That's just what I took from it. All the movie things. What do you think? What is your take on Mandy?
Mandy. So this film was part of my whole like 30 horror films I've never seen. So all three of these films are actually part of that, and I've never seen all three of these. And Mandy, I kind of always wanted to see too, just because I heard so many like great things about it. Yeah, I really liked it. It's probably one of the most original films I've ever seen. Just from all aspects, mostly visuals, like just like the different lighting effects that were being used, and just the way they like tried to portray things visually. Yeah, it was just really great. There are a couple like actors of note, like legendary Bill Duke is in this film. Also, there's a Batman Begins connection. Both Linus Roach and Ned Dennehy were both in Batman Begins. One played Linus Roach played Thomas Wayne, and
Oh, that's right. He did. Oh,
the other
wow.
actor,
What a different character.
yeah,
him, yeah.
totally. I know. Yeah, he played the like cult leader guy, and so man, yeah, there's some like crazy stuff in this movie. I really liked it. I mean, I never thought once that I'd like need to see a chainsaw battle in my life, but man, I got it, and I'm happy. So my take.
Black Girl Marvel. What is your take on Mandy?
I also want to say that Linus Roach was he was on Special Victims Unit. He played in ADA, so that's where I know him from.
Yep.
Because I love me some SVU, but that's a different discussion. Mandy, I mean, I'm on the fence. Like I'm like right in the middle of Mr. Snippets and all the movie things because I remember watching it and going, this is kind of slow. This is the pacing is very, but again, I realized they were doing it intentionally to like, I think to highlight certain things to like just give it a different feel because it made it weirder to me by it moving that slow. And then I love the color palette. I love how like sometimes the color changes with the mood and the tone that they want the like the next scene might reflect what that like a blue or something like that. So somebody's sad or a red because or a red and a blue because like it's in the middle. Like it was I like that. I was kind of talking to Mr. Marvelite about this in the beginning a little bit before we started recording. I felt like stupid because the dialogue, I kind of really didn't understand the dialogue of like it was so like cerebral that my brain just didn't pick up like what they were really talking about. So I felt kind of dumb watching it. But then when it got to the gratuitous violence, I was like, I get it, revenge. So like my brain kind of came back and I kind of understood things.
Yeah, no, yeah, but, that makes sense. Makes sense.
But up until that point, I was like, oh, it's Nick Cage. Like he was
especially from the cult leader. Dialogue from the cult leader.
His dialogue was very. I was like.
I don't know. It felt Koreshi, so I understood in the sense that he was just like, I'm God and we're connected to totally. God in one way or another. I just took it as that.
I definitely got the gist of what he was saying, but it's just, I think certain lines, certain words, I was just, or like when Mandy was talking about some of her stuff, like not when she was talking about her father and anything like that, I thoroughly understood that. But some of the things that she was saying, some of her dialogue, I was like, are these actual words or did they just create their own thing?
It's very surreal kind of
it's very. I'm just like okay, but other than that, like I enjoyed it because I like Nick Cage in non-traditional type like films. I think he shines his brightest in those, so I enjoyed it.
That's awesome, Mr. Marvelite. Let's hear what the naysayer has to say.
Wait for this.
I want to hear it.
All right, so let's start off with some positives. Positive. Nicolas Cage had very few lines in this movie, and I find that when you have more visceral or like horror films, the less he talks, the more convincing he is that he's going through something emotionally. And you obviously, I mean, the tears and the emotion that he's going through are definitely that bathroom scene was like at first you think it's funny, but then you stop and you're looking at it and it's like he's on the edge of insanity, and at that point you don't know if he's going to commit suicide or if he's going to scrap up and kill people. And of course, thankfully he did the latter. I agree the color palette was great. I think the lighting was good. I think there were some aspects of this film that I think they did well. This is not your conventional film where you really expect how they're going to go with it. And I do kind of get the idea of like you're saying, Black or Marvel, where it's almost like you feel like you're not, really with what's going on. You're kind of like, almost kind of feel stupid, but at the same time, it's like you're kind of looking at this through his eyes, and he doesn't know why they're doing this. He doesn't understand what they're talking about. All he knows is he's watching, his love die in front of him in the most vicious way that you possibly could. And I mean, you kind of feel his pain when he's like wrapped up with the barbed wire around his wrist and stuff. And that scene for me with him getting his hand, like him loose from the barbed wire, gave me like the cringe I did like back with Saw when like you see them struggling with that idea of, cutting off the foot to get, to get loose and to survive. And so that was interesting. And of course it's with any like story, and this is where it gets kind of like tropish, and I think sometimes these tropes are too much. The guy who's madly in love with the girl, once the girl is gone, he goes back to his life of killing people, because obviously it seems like he gave up something in his past and he's bringing it back to be able to seek vengeance,
like John Wick.
Yeah, like John Wick, and we've seen this stuff in the past where it's like, we don't know the full story of him, and oh well, they messed with the wrong guy type story, and it's fine. But like even the dialogue, and I will say this, what is it? Richard Blake he played Joe Chill. He's the one that killed Thomas Wayne in Batman Begins. And like that whole like scene was just completely ridiculous. Nicolas Cage never says a word, but the guy obviously is reading his mind because he's responding to everything Nicolas Cage is not saying or doing. He's got a tiger that he just lets loose that doesn't do anything other than walk away. Like, there are some like extremely ridiculous things, which is I think why they wanted Nicolas Cage in the first place. It didn't do a lot for me. There were things I appreciated, but it's
I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's okay. No, it's like the transitions with the cartoons and like the animation and stuff. It's like, okay,
that was all her drawings. Like that was what he was
cool.
seeing with her art from the beginning. So that was his expression of his thoughts of her and his feelings of her.
And the LSD trip.
But let's go to the there's two things I want to mention. The wasp, I guess, the giant wasp that they sting Mandy with. And then the fact that it feels like everyone is high in this film and that we're watching the film from the high perspective the whole time.
We are.
And
everybody
because
had
of that, right, because of that, it's hard to tell what's going on. It's almost
maybe
like
we need to be high to watch the film.
The thing is that it feels like this is what it would feel like to be a cult member, is almost like what they were trying to portray. Like you're under this spell with them in the beginning. You don't understand. What I liked though was that Mandy laughed him off. She knew he was crazy. And I liked how it led to that, because it was that shot between him and her as it faded back and forth between them was one of the most beautiful shots I've seen in a film in a long time, because I kept going, wait, is it both of them? Oh, wait, is it her? Is it him? And I couldn't tell because their faces are so aligned that shot just kept going back and forth. I really enjoyed it. So, we got to hydrate. Time to hydrate.
Oh, here we go.
Anyway, I thought it was beautiful. It's as gross as it is, it's still a beautiful film. And I think that there's also an element that we're forgetting about, which is the weird creatures that the cult members talk to and that keep showing up. Very strange. Nice mug, he says.
Yes, you're talking about my face, right?
He is. You have two mugs. Anyway, I think I will actually watch this film again, because I think it's worth dissecting and seeing it again in order to maybe understand the moments like Lala was talking about that are like, what? Because there are a lot of those moments, and it definitely has some pretty just straight up male frontal nudity. Just putting that out there for people in case they care.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hello.
Right.
Like, okay. You came out of nowhere. I was like, okay.
Thanks for the follow. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What's up, Muncie?
Muncie's here.
No, it's not water. Thank you.
It's not water. Is it something
It
else?
it was Bang, but now it's Pepsi.
Oh, okay. Good. It's
Mr.
Pepsi.
Marvel is getting wasted as the show keeps going on.
I'm enjoying mixed drinks. That's all it is.
At midnight,
his
he's like,
well
"Big
drinks.
super devil." He's so crazy.
I love it. Rum and Pepsi, even not Coke. I love it.
No, I think we. Oh, and that. Okay, hold on. The glass Coke scene in Mandy. I will say, like, I was just like, you know what? What else can we do? Like, that was just. And then he licks the jar with the LSD and stuff in it. We have that trip, and now we know what Nicolas Cage lives like every day.
Yeah.
I do believe he was suited for this role, or the role was written for him. I do agree with Marvelite on that, because that bathroom scene was straight out of any other Nick Cage movie where he yells. And I don't mean it in a bad way, because he definitely put the raw emotion there, and I felt it. But that was his like.
Also, I think that was all improvised too, because if you pay attention to how the camera's moving, they're not sure what he's gonna do. So they want to, because they want to like kind of move in on him, and then he does like a move, and then the camera kind of like comes back a little bit, and then they move in a little bit again, and then it comes back again. So it's kind of funny watching that camera work, because they're like, but they kept it because that was probably the best performance that he did for that improv.
Yeah,
right.
It's got to be in his contract to yell at some point in a film.
Well, it's like Leonardo DiCaprio has to cry. Like, you can't put him in a movie and not have him cry at some point, on some level. That's just a rule. There's certain actors, like, you can't have Morgan Freeman not do something beautiful with his voice.
Not beautiful with his voice.
He's
Lord
like
have mercy.
oh my goodness.
His voice is beautiful. Hilarious. His voice is gorgeous. I love it. Who doesn't love Morgan Freeman's voice? I mean, even he jokes about it.
You can read the dictionary.
That I would listen. Oh, let's not put "Leaf on the Wind" in the chat. You don't want me crying right now. We don't need to go there. Let's move on. I don't know what else to say about this movie personally, other than it's gritty and worth a watch. It's definitely a raw film that it's got a lot of gratuity and a lot of violence. Once you get to the thick of the film. What do you guys have? More for this film?
I don't know. I just think it was one of the most original films I've seen in a while. I think it's one of those things where I'm glad it got the attention it did, because I'm an advocate for supporting more original kind of films, because I mean, we get our big budget ones all the time, but that big budget money that they get trickles down to these smaller films, but they're not going to continue making them unless we continue to support them. So I love that this got, a lot of support. It's beautiful in some moments, I think there's a lot of metaphor I think there is some rewatchability, just to be like, what are they trying to say? Like the tiger moment for me is like, I feel like that was just a visual metaphor, like Nicolas Cage's character, like the beast has been released and he's off the leash basically. So and like there's a million ways you could probably interpret it, some of those metaphors as well, like, and the color is definitely a visual metaphor. Yeah, I just think it was, the more I talk about it, it's one of those films where the more I talk about it and think about it, the more I find myself like actually liking it than my initial watch too. So
Justin was actually talking about how this is from the production company that is Elijah Wood, and they're called Spectre, and she said there's a lot more coming from this company in this kind of way, this kind of taking things off the beaten path approach.
That's cool.
I think that there aren't enough movies. I know this is going to sound strange. There are not enough movies about cults in an era where we're full of cults. We should be examining them a lot more, considering
personality and
And I did get like a much more heavy Red State vibe from this film. Like, cults always do have that same feeling, so it didn't feel odd to me. I felt, I knew what I was in when they were talking to him like that. Even just the lady that he encounters, the cult leader encounters first, the way he's talking to her and the way he's talking down to her, you're almost like, dude, this is a cult leader. He's a total turd. And yeah, lo and behold, he is. So, yeah. Mr. Marvelite, any other naysays for this film?
Naysays? That's what I've said. Yeah, I really, it's just, I mean, yes, it's good for, for independent films to get out there and to, when we don't have the opportunity for big, for smaller producers and directors and people to make these films, it makes it really hard for people to get into bigger films later down the road. There's got to be a place for people to do this. And so, yes, it is great that there are these small films, and I couldn't take it personally seriously. There just were just like a lot of things. I just kept looking at Nicolas Cage, and again, I like Nicolas Cage, and I think that he did some really great things in this film. But it's like still for me, it just didn't hit well. It's just I think the pacing was probably most of the part. I get the idea that they want us to go in blind, like he was going in blind to see what was going on. But I just don't feel like we really earned being along the ride with him. So that's just how I feel.
I can see that though, because we didn't get enough between, like, there's enough visually and artistically between them that if you watch it with the metaphors in mind, you can see that they've built it up. But as far as standard character development, you would not find that in this film. And if you are looking for that, I can see how that being missing might not be as a driving force. I don't know. As soon as I saw his love on fire, I felt like, wow, I totally understand where this guy is. That's just me.
I felt like there was enough build up there because we see them I think it was more about them together and how they were together really than them as individuals. That's how I took it. But and we talk about the pacing. Yeah, it's slower than what we're used to for sure. I mean, like I could go off on like a whole societal thing on how we are as like viewers and our overall attention spans, getting shorter and shorter. But I felt like there was enough there. But
no, we can actually touch on that point, all the movie things, because that's something that I think growing up the way that most of the four of us have, we grew up with 80s movies, 70s movies, right? So we knew the movies were slower paced back then. We used to think they were fast paced because they were even faster paced than the movies before them. But nowadays, if you're not doing those choppy edits and just cutting straight through it.
Yeah, you have a cut that lasts like maybe like 10 frames, like not even a full second. Like, I mean, yeah, just enough to get like a blink of something.
Right. That's and it's a punch or something, especially with action. Action has taken off.
Whip pan here. Like, yeah.
Right. So it is an interesting thing that I think I would argue that even the way we consume social media in these little snidbits, if you will, definitely make it. I had to definitely make it so that we view things with this short attention span. Even those of us who are older, I find myself if I go to Facebook, which is like never, but if I go to the video section, I'm like, this is so boring. 5 minutes. This is stupid. So I leave immediately and come back to 15-second videos. So anyway, I think it's important.
I've noticed it more with movies. Yeah, I've had to reevaluate my is this really a slow? Is this really slower? Or is it really just me because I'm so used to watching so much coming at me at a faster pace. So I do have to sit with that when I watch them with a slower pace. So
I feel like it was slow for sure, but I think it moved at the speed that humans move, like in real life.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's why we're like, oh my god, get out of the way! I'm trying to get to where I'm going. I'm trying to get to the end of the movie.
That's a really good way to put that.
Right, yeah.
So I think it moved how we move, and I think that's why we were like, ugh, this is slow. If we're walking down the street and somebody's walking just a touch slower than us, it's like, oh my god. Oh, I gotta go over.
Or you're in traffic too is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not speeding in front of me. Get out of my way.
Exactly, it's one of those things, and I honestly feel like this is how that movie moves, and I could find myself being like, this is torture. It's so slow, but I don't know. I've always found myself enjoying weird movies, and this movie was definitely weird because there's no explanation in this movie. Really, it's like he used a shell to call these demons. Like, what's happening? Like from where did you call them that they were able to hear the call? It's like one of those things. And then it's like I would just assume that once they did what they set out to do, that they would just disappear. But he just happened to find them. He just walked the trail and was able to locate everybody the way he found the chemist. He found like everybody. It was just certain things that I just wish there were like a little trail of explanation of how he was able to do these things. But it's I mean, I can't change it, but it's one of those things where I was like, I wish we could just wish we could figure it out. But then, you know, it's one of those things where you just kind of throw things up in the air and just like, I'll accept this film for what it gives me.
I don't think you're supposed to know.
Yeah, you know, it's just, but I want to know as a viewer. I want to know, like,
I agree.
Like, you know, like how does he know? And then it's like, even if they would have given me more, they gave you like snippets. They give you snippets of his background. Of his background, where it's like, okay, he must be like possibly military, maybe, because the guy that he was with, maybe he's a little bit of a military, so maybe he has like a tracking background. You know, obviously he's a sniper because he can shoot from far distances, and hit his target. But it's like, okay, I was getting little things, but it's like, but still, how are you locating them? Like, how? I mean, I know the guy gave him.
He knows those woods really well. He's a lumberjack.
I mean, yeah, they show his like history as a lumberjack or whatnot. But
I just want
you put that and the military together.
Yeah.
Well, remember the guy on the CB radio. He said, you know, they're by this like area, and then from there he you know scoped the guys out. Now we don't really get
he's a phenomenal actor.
The chemist, but then the chemist just told him to go north. But it's like, I think the thing for me is, again, I don't mind slower paced films. I just feel like when we did slow pace, I mean, other than like the bathroom scene, him struggling to get out of the barbed wire, you know, like some things like that where you're seeing him kind of recover from
that really
the trauma. There are these pacings where it's just like, it doesn't necessarily add to the quality of the film. It's just kind of lengthening it. Like, this movie could literally have been like probably an hour and a half or less, if they would have cut that pace, that those slow moments out. And I almost, and again, from my perspective, I don't feel like those quiet moments of, it's not that I want it to be faster. It's just, I don't feel like it added anything to it other than, you know, making you kind of think about what's happening, because you don't really get, this is kind of the idea of when it's like you either are observing, involved, or you're spectating in something. And I feel like in this movie we're spectating. We don't know anything about going on. And I'm going to take it in like a video game standpoint. You know, if you watch somebody like on Twitch and they're streaming, they're going to talk to you about their reasoning, what they want to do. You know, you kind of find out what's going on with the streamer. If you are playing a game and you get killed and you're spectating, you have no idea what's going to happen. And so you're just sitting there, and oftentimes you're only going to go where it's interesting. And unfortunately, in some points, it was not that like compelling to kind of understand what was going on. There was no real narration other than what you got out of the film. So that's where it kind of bothered me.
No, I mean, because my thing is this, I would have taken, even if you didn't want to like spell everything out for us, which that's not what I'm looking for. But if you didn't want to give us that, I felt no connection to anyone in this film. Everybody could have died, and I would have been like, well, that's a crazy movie, right? I would think at some point you would want me to be connected to Nick Cage's character, the character of Mandy. I'm not attached to either one of them. I don't think they were on screen a lot, but none of it was done in a way for me to feel attached to their relationship, attached to if he lost her or if she lost him or anything like that. So when she did get like snatched up and then she did die, like these things happen, I didn't really feel anything. I felt bad for him, yeah, but I wasn't attached enough to be like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? But what is he going to do next? Because, you know, I didn't have like, and I wasn't connected to it. I was like, they could kill him too. This could be the end of the movie. And I'd be like, all right. You know,
so you're saying it didn't have that John Wick pull?
Honestly, no.
I'm going to go with John Wick. It's like...
But immediately in John Wick, I wanted to watch him just F everybody up after what happened, because that initial...
For me, John Wick did something in like 5-10 minutes of his film that I felt like with the length that Mandy had in the beginning, establishing these two, could have worked. I got more connected to John Wick being with his wife in brief moments, and then losing his wife, and then getting a dog from his dead wife, and then losing the dog. I felt more from that than a woman in a sack being burned to death. And
Or
that's,
even
for
consider
me, that speaks a lot.
Well, a couple weeks ago we watched Hannah. Was it a Hannah?
Kate?
No.
No. What am I watching? No. I'm sorry. I watched Hannah. We did do it.
Like, I don't remember watching that.
So I watched Hannah, and I recommended
movie?
on. I think it's the movie.
Yeah,
the one with Kevin James. It was good, and like she hates her dad because like she's bringing in a the mother dies of cancer. You have the dad is like moving on, wants to sell the house, doesn't want to sell the house, is going to get married to this other woman who has a kid, and Hannah's just not on board with any of it, and she has like this hate relationship. But when you see her father die in front of her, and you see the rage in her, like that made more sense than I feel like the relationship that happened. And again, I recommend it's if you hate Kevin James, you'll love the film. If you like Kevin James, you'll love the film. Because both ways you get gratification. But it's like it's just I feel like the bonds were not strong enough. Just like what Black Girl Marvel said, it just didn't. I didn't feel emotionally invested in this, other than I wanted to see what happened next, even though I may not have understood like the whole gravity of what was going on.
All right.
We're talking about. Then we're talking about two different Hannahs, because I was thinking of the
TV show.
the one about the Hannah, the film with about the 16-year-old,
The assassin.
Hold on.
What the show is based on. Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see if I may have gotten the name wrong.
No, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, and it was the one where Kevin James plays the bad guy, right?
Yeah, he plays like the white supremacist that
Oh.
I don't know if it was Hannah. It's like it starts with a B, I think.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm getting there. Just give me a second.
What's the film?
Anyway, we can now move into actually rating this film. Why don't we start the way we did?
No, it was called Becky. I'm sorry.
Becky. It was a B. I was right. It was a B.
Yeah.
Look at that. All the movie things. Why don't you go ahead and give us your ratings? For Halloween season, unless the movie is like something a 12-year-old would watch, let's just give our adult review.
Oh yeah, a lot of these I probably wouldn't watch as a 12-year-old.
Right. If my parents caught me watching Mandy, I would have been in a lot of trouble. So go ahead.
Yeah. I'm gonna give this one an 8. I felt it was pretty solid. I just really liked a lot of what they're doing. It was just I didn't know what to expect from it, and it kind of like really surprised me in a lot of different ways. So, and being a cinematography nerd, I definitely was like on board with what they were doing there. It was just such a different, unique film for me, and I really loved the like very little dialogue that they tried doing, and you really had to pay attention to what was visually being told to you, So, it was great.
All right. How about you, Black Girl Marvel?
12-year-old me probably would have watched a film like this, because I watched a lot of different things as a child that I wasn't supposed to watch because nobody was home. Or my daddy was asleep, like either one. So I think 12-year-old me would have given this like maybe like a 7. Would be like, because it had like chainsaw massacres in it and things like that, and like a very long chainsaw. I'm like, you guys are overcompensating.
Yeah.
But he just came out like, I was just like, for real, sir? All right. But grown up me, this is not a film that I will ever watch again unless somebody makes me. And that's no disrespect to the film itself. It's just not one of a film that I would just have in my box of films. So I think I would probably give this 7.5.
A 7.5.
It was a solid watch. Yeah, it was a solid watch. I'm not mad at watching it for one time.
And there are films we all watch once and don't go back to because they're just good enough, or maybe the content is too much, And this is one of those. For some people, this might have content that's too much. Mr. Marvelette.
Ooh, what's this number?
-4 for seeing Linus Roche's frontal nudity. Just, I'm like I don't understand sometimes like why people think that they have to do certain things, and it is what it is.
Did it shock you?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
I just was just like, okay, can we please move on? Like, it had to have been embarrassing for. I don't know.
Maybe you have some
Nothing to see here.
searching to do there.
What's that?
Maybe you have some internal stuff you need to maybe work through. Maybe, I don't know.
That I have no interest.
No. So for me, I understand. You're in a lot of cases it's meant to make you uncomfortable. That's the point. We don't see full frontal nudity, especially male, all the time. It's not a normal thing in our society. So it makes people uncomfortable naturally. But for me, he was trying to present himself. He was trying to show his dominance in that room by being naked and robeless amongst people who he could say, look away from me, and they would. His power was right out there for us to see. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, see, I just kind of looked at it like, okay, this guy obviously spent way too much time in the locker rooms when he, during gym and stuff. But it was kind of like, I don't know. It's just it didn't like jar him yelling at everyone else not to look, like they weren't even bothered by it. It was him making them turn away. It was kind of like he was trying to expel this power that in showing himself, he was this pinnacle of whatever, and like he's trying to talk to her about her being, you should feel honored because I think of you as a special person, and I could choose anybody, which he had chosen anybody, and it was the idea that he had no real, physical power other than this mental hold that he had on everyone around him. Like his power over this group as a cult leader it's the same thing. If you go look at David Koresh and you look at Charles Manson, they were, if you think of it, they all were cowards at some point. I think the only time I've ever seen a cult leader that I felt in film where it seemed like he had the charisma, but he also had some dominance and this is Bad Times in the El Royale. Chris Hemsworth's character, he played the mental games, but he had the physicality for it. So it was kind of like everybody else. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm just
I get
it. But I mean, as a kid, I probably would have watched this film with my grandmother because my grandmother had no standards. She would let me sneak and watch any horror film that was out, and she'd just say, "Don't tell your mom," which I would then tell my mom and then get in trouble. So I mean, I would have watched it, but I probably wouldn't have liked it. I'd say for me, it's a 5.
All right, 5 is still solid enough that you might tell somebody that might like something like this to watch it.
Not really.
No, okay.
I'm giving it a 5. Let me explain why. I understand. I appreciate some of the production value. I think Nicolas Cage is interesting, whatever. But just because I like Nicolas Cage doesn't mean I'm going to recommend him in a bad film. It's just I watched it. I can appreciate it for what it is, but it doesn't really. It's not something that I would say you'd really enjoy watching this film in my mind. So
all right.
I hope you don't hate me because of it.
No, dude, we appreciate you having
you can't be right all the time.
You guys
go watch the cliff notes on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
This is Mr. Marvelite's last show with us.
I'll be starting my own where Tony talks about anything.
Yeah,
except for Mandy. So for myself, I'm right in the same line with all the movie things. I'm going to give this probably an 8. Mostly because I think that there were enough visual metaphors to keep me interested in what otherwise would be a fairly benign and slow film, with all the added color, we didn't actually even talk about the moments where they did the headlines, or not the headlines, but the titles every so often between each segment, which have more meaning to what's going on, probably with, I think, Mandy and Nick Cage and their goings on. That's just what I took from it. But I think an 8. I think this movie is an 8. I think it's worth a watch. I think everybody should give it a try, being forewarned what is in it. I think this could trigger some folks on some levels. So it's Peter Spider Parkerman 1. Parkerman, I got it right.
It's Parkerman, yeah. Peter Spider-Man Parkerman.
Any thoughts on It Follows? He says. Well, yes. If you stick around, you could redeem it, and we could review it. Okay.
Can I say one thing about the title credits?
For this title credits, yeah.
On Mandy. So I was disinterested. I was kind of like watching this like from like side eyeing while I was doing something, and one of the titles where it said that like the children that one title came up. I had to stop, go back in the app, and make sure I was still watching Mandy because I thought I may have missed it. It just like I
thought because I watched it on a different platform. That's all I was saying. And I was like, oh, I ain't got the right movie. I was like, this ain't the right movie. So I skipped the thing and went to a different like link or whatever, and I was like, and I went to it and I saw it again. I was like, is this how it starts? Like, let me just ride it out. Let me just ride it out. What happens? Plus, it had like very old timey like music. It gave me, because this film gave me a very like 80s feel to it, and I was just like, and I was like, oh, okay, I was like, let me just see what happens. And then I saw Nick Cage's name and like the type of font that was used was very old schooly, so I was like, oh, okay, let's see what happens. Like, I was excited up until it started playing, and I was like, oh, okay, this is straight.
And let me just say this also, though I may not have liked this film. If you listen to Brian and Mr. Snippets and all the movie things and Mr. Snippets, and you want to see this film, Shudder is got a 7-day free trial, and it is on Shudder. It's something, and there's a lot of like B horror type films and stuff, so that's there if you want to watch it.
I was happy to rent it, and I actually helped purchase and
I just did the trial. I just did the trial of Shudder because I was like, I might as well. Maybe I'll find something else that's interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
I was hoping it was going to be less than $15, or I probably would have just bought it. But that's just me. I'm a movie bargain person. Maybe that's terrible. Any way you slice it. Let's go ahead and move on to Tucker and Dale versus Evil. We're over here at the poster wall. This movie stars Alan Tudyk. He is the main star of the film. There are other people in it, but not exceptionally well-known folks. Pardon me, we're going to go back to the drive-in. I'm trying to pull the movie up here right now. Why don't we go with... all the movie things again, because this was his first viewing, and I'm actually curious. On the next movie, we're going to have Lala give us her first impression, because she spoke up in the Discord and was like, hey, speaking of which, before we move on, if you are not already following all of us on TikTok, YouTube, Discord, wherever you may find one of the Real Study participants and or the Real Study itself, please follow us. And we now do have this show on Apple Podcasts as well as Anchor apps for you to enjoy on the go. So please do check that out. What I meant, Lala, was that you mentioned in the Discord, you were like, y'all watching this? What? And
okay.
No, not in a negative way, just that you brought it up first, so I figured I'd go with you. So yeah, we've got Alan Tudyk and Taylor Labine, I think is the way you would say his name, playing both Tucker and Dale. Tyler, not Taylor. And then
Tyler.
I don't really recognize anybody else. There are people in it, but a lot of what you call college kids, as they do in the film. So all the movie things, take it away. What's your initial impression of Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Oh man, this was another fun one. This was one of those two that like I'd always heard about and people were like loving, and I just avoided it for whatever reason. And then when I finally watched, I was like, why didn't I see this sooner? And it's just, I even the way I put it in my review on TikTok was like, I feel like this is a more realistic version of what would happen if we were in like a horror situation, if real people were in the like, it'd just be a bunch of mishaps and like no one knows what they're doing. And there's like, I love the whole like idea of like, whatever your perspective is, like what you wholeheartedly believe, even though the other person or the group has a totally different perspective, and I mean, they set things up really well. I love that, like, once you saw like an element added, you were like already anticipating like, oh, this is gonna be, how is this gonna be bad? I mean, as soon as like there's a chainsaw involved, you're like, okay, this is gonna go hilariously wrong. And then the wood chipper, I was just like, oh, I can't wait for this to go wrong. And but yeah, it was just fun. I mean, and I love too that they didn't go over the top with their like because they're supposed to be like these hillbilly, Southern folks, and they didn't go over the top with their accents or like these stereotypes so much. But the perspective of these college kids was all those they totally fully believed in those stereotypes. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. So
to admit, and we're gonna move right along here to Mr. Marvelite, but to admit, it didn't help with stereotypes that Dale walked over with a scythe when he first met them. I'm just putting that out there.
I did the exact same thing.
Like it just didn't.
Listen,
I was like,
I live in the country. That would be a commonplace thing. You will see like people just walk up to you, a scythe. They'll be walking up with you with a revolver in their hand, just like trying to like talk crap. So
right,
yeah.
So you've seen this one before, Mr. Marvelite. You said you loved this one already. How many times have you seen it since you've seen it before?
I've only seen it. I saw it maybe twice. The first time I saw it, I was actually sick, and I was running through. I was getting tired of watching the same old things that I watch when I'm sick, and so I think it was on Hulu at the time, and I watched it through that. I'd watched this film at the same time as I probably watched. Was it Boy Scouts Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse? So like I was on a stupid movie like hype, at that point, and so like. I just kind of like came on this film, and of course, if you like Alan, was it Tudyk?
Tudyk. I say Tudyk.
I don't know. I just call him Wash. What is it? What does a Reaver do?
Nope. Don't.
What does the Reaver do to disinfect their weapons? They put it through a wash. But it's like it's if you like him in anything, and he's been in a lot of stuff, you'll be willing to give it a try. Like Tyler Labine, I really didn't know much about, but watching this film, I just love the engagement between the two of them. Oh, Justin, thank you for the cheers. But it was a very fun film for me, and I love the idea of these college students that are trying to protect themselves from the evil hillbillies are doing this to themselves, and all of these things are happenstance to the point of where Tucker and Dale are kind of like having to defend themselves at some point. So I definitely loved it. I and of course, anytime you have that kind of like that buddy engagement, between the two of them is just so much fun. But yeah, it's kind of one of those movies I feel like a lot of people have slept on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't watched Tucker and Dale versus Evil, it's I would highly recommend it. It's definitely worth a watch. If not multiple watches. And after going over this, because I wanted to refresh myself on it, if you didn't know this, I don't know if it's on streaming, but on the DVD or Blu-ray special edition or the special features in it, there's actually a version of the film where you're watching it through the eyes of the college students, and so you're seeing it and their perspective. It's the same film, but it's filmed from their perspective, where Tucker and Dale are viewed as the evil hillbillies. So definitely worth a watch, both ways.
That's good.
I am going to get that just so I can do that because it sounds like a good time. How about Black Girl Marvel, Tucker and Dale?
Never seen Tucker and Dale. I'm kind of on the same lines of all the movie things. It was one of those films that I heard about, but I just kind of was just like I told them before, I was like, I see something called Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Don't seem like it's for me. I just kind of like bypassed it. But I love Alan Tudyk. I love Tyler Labine. I've been waiting. Listen, Tyler Labine is one of my favorite actors because he's always been in weird things, weird TV shows, weird films, and mainly weird TV shows. His TV shows always get canceled. And they are like quality to me. They're like really good TV shows. They always get canceled, and now he's currently on New Amsterdam, which seems to be a show that kind of like has some longevity now, and I hope it stays that way. So I was just happy to see him on TV because I think he's a very good actor. He went from playing like stoners to now he's like a gay therapist on New Amsterdam. Like I love him. Like I'm obsessed with him, and I've been a fan of Alan Tudyk for a while too. So this film was like, it was funny. It has some really good action for the most part, like murders and things if you want to call them, or oopsie daisies. Because there was just like a lot of accidents all up and throughout this film. They gave me Tucker and Dale are very much like Hillbilly George and Lenny to me. Like of Mice and Men, like they're very. They gave me that type of feel when I watched it. But I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I didn't like read anything or I know I heard about it, but I was just like, let me just go into this kind of like fresh. And I'm happy I did because usually I read stuff and then sometimes I read stuff first and then I'll like go and watch it because sometimes me reading it has no effect on how I see it. So it's just like I can do both, it'll be fine. But I'm just happy I didn't do that with this film because it was just like I told the guys beforehand, I was like, this was like most of the spoofs that I see are like black people doing spoofs, like the Wayans brothers doing like Scary Movie and like those types of spoofs. Like just these spoofs. And I feel like this was like a white person's version of a spoof because they took all these natural tropes that happen in like these horror movies that mainly star like white people and they just twisted it, like the really pretty girl ended up with the hillbilly and like which I was like very much rooting for that. The moment she was like, what board games do you got? I was like, be a couple. The moment they played a board game, I was like, date her. You are in love together. I love it. And then it's just like, you got the one, like I said, you got the one guy who is like, he's like, everybody wishes for this in their life to be able to take down like murderers. Like he was so gung-ho and to find out that his daddy was like originally a murderer and he had that vibe. Like his whole history is messed up. It's like, how do you like have the vibe of a murderer because your daddy killed everybody?
I love that he was the frat boy. That he played supposed to be the normal, hero. He's normally that's the antagonist character, the protagonist character that we normally follow around, but not in this movie.
But I love that though. I love that they kind of like threw these different like tropes that we usually see in these horror films on their head. Because one of the funniest lines to me was when she found the newspaper of the father. She was like, she told him, she's like, Chad, this is your dad. He was like, no. She was like, yes, you're part hillbilly. I was dying on the floor.
It's a genetic thing. Like, yeah.
Yes, I died. I think this is my ghost you guys are talking to right now. I didn't survive that line because that was hilarious. You're part hillbilly. He was like, no, like it's such ludicrous. It's so ludicrous, but it was just really, really good.
I do like that they explained how Dale became kind of slow, if you will, because they used to, catch frogs all the time, and he licked them all the time, and they always made him feel funny. I love they added little bits of dialogue that gave you these histories of the characters, and yet a simple hour and a half film like this. It's an hour and a half, and it's paced perfectly.
It's efficient. It's an efficient.
Time. It was less time than the other two films, but it was. But the through line better.
It really
than the other two films in my book. And I love that Dale's like literally a freaking genius.
Oh yeah. Especially I remember certain things. I told you that I remember certain things.
It's so funny.
I remember stupid things, but I love her. Like I love
things for the plot too. Like
there's a difference between education and intellect. And I was like, girl, if that's not the truth,
not only that.
I was like, come on. Each other.
They made him out to be a person who believes in consent. He believes in that people should have modesty. Like he didn't even like that Tucker was looking at the girl in her bra. He was like, dude, you're being a pervert. Like I was like, dude, Dale, you're awesome, dude. That's such a sweet guy, You don't see that.
But like they sat down and had like Earl Grey tea, and he's like, what did he say? He was like, I feel better. Every time she told him to do something, close your eyes. He closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. He's like, how do you feel? I feel about this. He's like, first off, I want to say, I'm sorry about your murder family, your massacre family. He was just so
he tried so hard.
They were actually rather refined. It was just nice to see that.
Yeah.
That better not be chamomile. It doesn't work with my. No, yeah.
First day they brought her there, like made her breakfast and was like, "Oh, you don't like pancakes?" And like went and made her a whole new breakfast and everything.
Breakfast. He was like, please don't say you only get some bacon. I was like, why are you so sweet? I was like, where can I find one? Because he's very intelligent. Like he knows a lot of stuff, and he's like nice and he works with his hands and he makes you breakfast. What more could you ask for?
And he's a teddy bear.
Yeah.
Like he's a big teddy bear guy.
It's like so good. Then you have to take the Tyler Bean. I wouldn't be mad at it because I like me some Tyler Bean. But yeah, dude, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was funny. I honestly didn't expect to laugh as much as I did, but the moment I saw Alan Tudyk, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be cracking up. The moment I saw him, I was like, I'm gonna be laughing because I can't not laugh when he says words.
Well, they set the pace of the film right away when the cop pulls them over and they're already dealing with drinking and they accidentally or Dale's accidentally giving him head. That sets the pace for the whole film, and you can tell that Dale already is not, I absolutely love this film. I think this is the 5th time I've seen this film, but it's one of those ones that I'm trying not to overwatch it because you can overwatch movies to a point where
no such thing.
Yeah, you can't love them anymore.
I would say no such thing too. Like,
really, you think you can't overwatch them?
So much. If I could paint every scene. I watched that movie so much.
Okay, so you're saying there are some movies that way? Because for me, there are movies I've watched a comedy so many times that I can't laugh at the joke anymore. Like I already know it's coming and it's not funny, so I just don't.
I will say there are certain movies. I won't say all of them. I will say there are certain movies.
Okay, fair. This movie's going to be hard to
Ghostbusters
really...
gets me every time.
Yeah, that's fair. I just rewatched that the other day. Still laugh my ass off. So, and then I just rewatched Superman, Ghostbusters, the original. And then I just watched Superman, the movie, which I know that all the movie things and I both love that movie. It's his favorite of all time, as far as I can tell. It's kind of broken that down. And it's one that every time I watch it, I swear it gets better. I think it gets better every time. So anyway, that aside, without ruining, if nobody's seen this, although I'm assuming most everyone in the chat has seen this film, but I don't want to.
Parkerman.
Oh, he hasn't seen it?
Peter Spider-Parker. No.
No excuses as to why he hasn't seen it. Okay. So this is the kind of movie I don't really want to spoil it for people because those moments, once they're given, there won't be as shocking and fun. So I don't really want to go into like any of the
He's saying go for it.
Oh. Well, we did talk about a few, but I think the deaths were creative. I didn't like it when Dale lost his fingers. But I did like it when he got them back. I liked that.
And he got the new finger. Right. Yeah.
I don't think I remember this one looking like this. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. I don't even know how they even reattached some fingers. Those fingers should have been dead and gone. I don't know.
Right.
But,
I
don't care. He need his bowling finger, so it's cool. Lily, LOL, Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yep. We have a whole other movie to watch. We also have a pre-review, and I thought that maybe we could talk about a little bit of DC Fandom because that happened this weekend, and I think we're all fairly excited about some of the stuff there. So we should give ourselves a few minutes for that. Why don't we go ahead and this movie's fun. It's a riot, but I don't know that there's going to be a lot for us to break down other than it was a great time. That's just from my perspective. If you guys disagree, please, if you feel like there's something to add, please do it now.
What did they say? I did read that there was supposed to be a sequel and that Alan and Tyler were coming back for it, but then I guess Alan is a part of the process of writing it, and he said the script that they did have was trash, so it's been on the shelf since I think 2016 or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, they said unless they can get something solid, they won't be making another one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that happens, but this kind of movie doesn't necessarily need a sequel.
Yeah, it's better not to have a film than to have a terrible sequel.
Just to put it out. To put it out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm with just enough on this one. This is one of my absolute go-to horror comedies, so I'm going to rate this one a 9 out of 10. If I were a kid, because this is one of those ones that you might have saw as a kid, I would have loved this. This would have been a 10 out of 10. I would have been laughing my ass off. I would have been like, this is as great as Evil Dead 2, and I would have put it right up there with that. So that's me. I'm just going to... Boom! I did it. Why don't we have Mr. Marvelite give his review of Tucker and Dale?
Yeah, I don't know if I would have put this with Evil Dead. I mean, yes, I would say it's a 9 for me. But my mindset is it's more like someone said in the chat. It's kind of up there with me for Shaun of the Dead. It's that kind of horror comedy, where you just kind of pick up that dynamic duo type vibe from it. But yeah, definitely it definitely was a 9 for me. I just I liked it. It was a lot of fun. Again, good pacing. It kind of plays on a trope that it can be its own thing. It's kind of a spoof on horror films, but then it's not really. It's kind of just this situation that happens to these two guys, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's like you do really like the characters going through this, and at some points you kind of just like are sitting there like, well, how are these kids going to kill themselves off? But but it's like, but it was definitely a fun film, and I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch the alternate version of it, and then go back and watch the original.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
How about Black Girl Marvel?
I give it a solid 8. It's a movie that I will watch again, and I probably will somewhere down the line. I'm happy that it's like now in my own personal filmography now. So that's nice to have that in there. But I think it's good. I would recommend it to people, certain people. I know some people who's like, no, thank you. But I know some people this might be like right up their alley. So it's like I highly recommend it. I think it's hilarious. Plus, it has 2 actors in there that I'm pretty sure nobody in my inner circle knows who these guys are. So that's another good thing for me that I like.
Educate them.
I'm on an island by myself for the most part in my circle. Yeah. Give it a solid 8. Solid 8.
Solid 8. All the movie things.
I'm gonna give it a 8.5. Yeah, just had a fun time with it. I agree with Mr. Marvelite too, saying like, oh, it kind of is its own thing, but it's also like it's like a 2-in-1. It's partial parody, but it's also like very much kind of its own new thing. And yeah, I just love that the whole idea of perspectives, and yeah, there's not really much to say about it. Like, it is one of those things where you don't really need to do a lot of analysis with it. I mean, it's different with like Mandy, which is very much on the other end of the spectrum where they're trying to like do some things, differently with visual metaphor and all those other things. But you like, they don't give you too much, and they give you just enough. Like in this film, like it's so efficient with the edit. Like it's. I mean, they give you all the information you need, and like I love that they don't like. They trust the audience. Is what I'm trying to say. They don't like over-explain things, and they don't like. Like I said, they give you everything you need to really have an enjoyable experience. So yeah, 8.5.
I would say that means this may be almost a near perfect popcorn film because it's just a good time, and you could eat a whole bowl of popcorn watching this movie. Just don't choke on it from all the times you're going to laugh, which is quite a few. That being said, there is a pre-review that we have from Super Kami Guru, who is our pre-review guy, and we are going to have to switch over to that here in just a second. When we come back, we'll do a few minutes talking about DC Fandom from yesterday, as well as moving on to finish up with Nightbreed. That being said, enjoy the pre-review.
How's it going, Real Study viewers? I'm Sean, and I'm back with this week's pre-review of all the movies coming to theaters and streaming this week. This week doesn't have a huge lineup, but I am proud to say that we have 4 nationwide releases this week. That's probably twice as many as we've had since I've started doing this, and it's nice to see more nationwide releases. Let's kick things off this week in the theaters and on HBO Max with Dune. This is the, I believe, 3rd adaptation that we've had from Frank Herbert's novel. This looks like this could be the one that hits the nail on the head. An absolutely all-star cast from Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa. I mean, the list goes on and on. Let's hope that they put this all together, and I know for one thing, I will be watching first moment I get a chance on HBO Max. Next in theaters, we have Ron's Gone Wrong. This animated film starring Zach Galifianakis, Ed Helms, looks absolutely hilarious. It's about in the future, imagine this, that everybody has a robot who looks like posts their social media and what's going on in their daily lives. and one little boy gets one, and his robot just isn't right. It looks like a fun family adventure, and I'll be sure to take my family, or at least find a way to watch it as soon as possible. Also, this week in theaters, Wes Anderson hits us again with The French Dispatch. This looks like another incredible tale from Wes Anderson. I'm a huge fan of his films. All of them have just been incredible. And like always, the cast does not disappoint. Tilda Swinton, Jeffrey Wright, Bill Murray, Adrian Brody, Benicio del Toro, and the wonderful Frances McDermott, as well as many, many more incredible cast members. This is one I'm going to catch from the first moment I can. It looks absolutely incredible. It's basically a love letter from Wes Anderson to the American journalists that started newspapers and got everything rolling. I cannot wait to watch this film. It looks so good. Amazon Prime is bringing us a movie, but first it'll be in the theaters this coming week, as well as Amazon Prime on November 5th, and that is The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Taika Waititi. This is another one that looks like so much fun. It's following the story of an artist who draws cats and brings a lot of joy to people, and we all love cats. They're incredible. Some of us are allergic to cats and can't own cats, but it doesn't mean I can't enjoy watching cat videos and movies. This looks like an incredible trailer. I cannot wait to watch this movie. It's based on a true story. It looks like an incredible movie that will probably be up for a lot of awards here in our future, so I cannot wait to watch that one. As we move on to streaming, we don't have much this week, but what we do have is amazing. Netflix is bringing us season 2 of Lock and Key. This is based off the Joe Hill graphic novel. I tell you, I love Joe Hill as a graphic novelist. His books are hit or miss. He's not quite his dad, who is Stephen King, by the way, but I was immediately sucked into the story of Lock and Key last year. I have been anxiously anticipating the release of season 2, and I cannot wait to watch this. If you haven't watched the first season, go back, watch it. You will not regret it. It's an incredible story, and season 2 should bring us bigger and better things. Y'all have a great one, Real Study viewers. I'm Sean, and this has been the pre-review for this week.
We are back from the pre-review. Thank you, Sean, for that. And we will hopefully get Sean on the show with us live one of these days. He can never be here because he works very early on Monday mornings. That being said, some great movies coming out, it looks like. Some good stuff. I saw that all the movie things was talking about Dune in IMAX. You're going to go see it in IMAX?
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting.
Nice.
Thursday.
I will be watching it on my iPad. The opposite of IMAX.
Just hold it really close to your face.
So I tried to make that argument one time that where you are in the theater determines how big the screen is, as if you were at home. And people didn't understand what I was trying to say. But if you sit in the back, it's like you have a 32-inch. But if you sit in the front, you got a 90-inch.
Yeah, you can it kind of consumes you more. I think it's easier to do with IMAX. It's like I saw No Time to Die in IMAX. I was definitely a little closer than I would normally be. I definitely felt like I was more like engulfed by the screen. So
was it too much?
There was a thing like the theater I was in, like it's not, the seats aren't high enough, like raised up enough, like a stadium, and so that it had like subtitles, and so when it's in full IMAX screen, the subtitles were like hidden in front of the people that were in front of me, so I couldn't really read the subtitles. But then it would like shrink to like non-IMAX version, and you could read it. So
interesting.
Not all the sequences were shot in IMAX.
Yeah, much like there have been several films like that at this point where they shoot some sequences.
Right.
I think Interstellar was one where they shot some sequences in IMAX and not others.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about DC Fandom. Some pretty amazing stuff. Actually, I was pretty shocked by the sheer amount of content that they released. That Fandom was a lot longer than I expected it to be, and of course they held the Batman for the last. I knew that when it started. I'm like, I'm not worried about seeing that preview till the end of the day. But I would say the thing that got me the most excited, besides Batgirl, when they said she's going to have red hair and it's going to be Barbara Gordon from the comics, I was excited beyond belief. and especially seeing the directors get all hyped about it. But The Flash, I didn't think I was going to be excited about it. I'm excited now. After seeing,
oh yeah,
just show me I didn't even have to see the car. Just show me the draped car, and I was like, oh, I can tell that that's the car. So
or Michael Keaton's voice,
but the car, you could just see it under. You could tell they brought that prop back, or went and got somebody who made one.
Yeah.
So anyway,
also that music in the very beginning of that is from Batman. Like they pulled that music in the beginning, and then later on they add their own. But yeah, that was awesome. A nice touch.
And let's talk about that Flash costume, like the one we saw where it's kind of like more.
Yeah.
It was kind of reminiscent to like the green lantern kind of styling with the yellow going through it. That was fire. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so more solid.
Ray was excited about seeing Michael Keaton. It looks like Marley is talking about the Static Shock movie in the works, which is going to be cool. That was something that blew my mind, was the inclusivity that they highlighted this year. I thought that was really cool that they really went for it. Lala, you have not said anything. I would like to give you an opportunity to tell us what you thought.
If we're talking Flash, I was like, man, it's okay. I know it's Flashpoint, so I'm hoping that they wipe this whole all these movies out of our palette and start anew. Because that's essentially what Flashpoint does for them. It's like in the comics, it kind of like rearrange some things. So hopefully they'll be able to have a more through line of a story, as opposed to like a whole bunch of one-offs that don't connect. And I'm not trying to turn them into Marvel, but I think DC for me has one of the best connected universes, and they're not doing it right. It's like, I don't know. But anyway, I can talk about that all day. But I did like seeing Sasha Cal. I believe her last name is Callie. Sasha Callie as Supergirl next to the Flash. I thought that was great, and nobody's pointing her out. Like anytime I look at something, they're like, "It's two Flashes." I'm like, "Yeah, but Supergirl's there."
Yeah, I haven't heard many people mention Supergirl either.
Like, come on, like she's there. But again, why would anyone mention the woman? But anyway, But I did kind of cream my jeans when I heard Michael Keaton's voice. So, because I'm a stupid big Michael Keaton fan, because he's Jack Frost. So he'll always be Jack Frost.
But he's also Beetlejuice.
That's your go-to.
No, I'm a child inside when I think about Michael Keaton, and he's Jack Frost. I cried buckets.
I love that.
I cried to this day when I watched Jack Frost. Nobody knows that movie. I think I'm the only person that like knows that movie. Maybe
I know it.
You guys too.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
I wore out the VHS.
I don't know it like you do. That's for sure.
She did say that. She did say that, Marley. That is a fact. She did say that.
Yeah.
Yes, I say things. Yeah, I say things. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Static Shock because it's Static Shock, and I feel like the cartoon has some of the best when it comes to like racial issues, and like it has some of the best in a cartoon that you like in the 90s that you would like ever see. So I'm hoping it's not all like social justice warrior, but I hope that they stay true to like the character and how he fights and how he stands up for like his friends and himself and like things like that. The biggest thing I'm excited for is the Batman.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest.
Oh, well, the Batman or the Batman animated series?
I'm excited for the animated series.
I am too. It's Bruce Timm coming back, and they're letting him take the chains off and do what he wants now.
I'm excited for both, but I'm excited for the Batman because I think Robert Pattinson is going to make a very fine Batman, and he's going to bring us a version of him that none of the films in my book have encountered, and that's like the detective, yes, but also like the very dark and bruised soul that is Bruce Wayne. Like we're getting a very young Bruce Wayne that doesn't know anything about like maybe I should hold a punch or maybe I should do this or maybe like he's very raw in this, raw in his feelings, raw in what this town has removed from him, and I'm excited to see Matt Reeves' take on that. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to see Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, as Selena Kyle, because I believe this will be the beginning of her journey in these stories as well, and I think it's amazing to kind of see her origin in a way, and not see her as established Catwoman. See her build up to the spandexy suit. Like right now she's got a skull cap on with some ears.
Right.
It's very
Well,
homemade,
she
and I'm excited to
looks
see her.
the part.
Yeah,
She
No, she
looks the
does.
part
Yeah,
so
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when it was rumored that she would be Selena Kyle, and I was like, I will murder everybody. I made a Instagram post about she better become. She fits it too well. Not that she has the short hair. She has like the acting gravitas.
Mhm.
She has the body frame.
The boots.
All she needs is the training to be slinky and cat-like. I love it. So.
Yeah, and that scene with her and Batman was very reminiscent to one of the covers with her and in the
When
comics.
she
And it was-
touches his face.
yeah, when she's touching his face and she's like kind
Yeah.
of getting under his skin, and it's just like
Mhm.
that whole scene where it's like he's not talking to her, but like you can feel the gravitas from Robert Pattinson when she's like who are you, and and then later on you see him and he's like I'm vengeance. You just see that raw anger out of him, and then there's that one scene where you see him and he's got the ground like scrawled all over, like he's like talking through his own reasoning and he's doing his own little it's kind of like that scene in the Suicide Squad where Joker's like got all the weapons and stuff down, which was ridiculous. But like for him, it's like he's trying to understand why he's doing what he's doing, and it's like, will it stop? Will this help? Who else has to die? It's like you can see like Batman's not Bruce is not where he needs to be mentally yet, and so we're gonna see
Robert
a very
Pattinson
visceral.
talked about that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
How,
way
like-
that he
how, like,
grabs.
this-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This Bruce, how like this Bruce, like how most Batmans, there's like a fine line between Bruce Wayne and Batman. For this one, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He doesn't know, really what's going on. He's still trying to figure it out and how to separate those two sides of himself.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm like, can we talk about that tunnel scene with all the machine guns going off? And like, oh my god,
He just
Oh,
walked
that
the
through.
thing, I
light-
can't watch that enough. Yeah,
The lighting on that is so good, and I love
it's insane, man.
he
Like,
is quintessential Batman because his suit is bulletproof, so he can just knock everybody out and do
yeah,
this
he just
stuff.
he's like, I don't care, just go. Yeah,
I love it. Oh my
Away.
gosh.
So
Yeah.
Marley just mentioned
Yeah.
Paul Dano as the Joker, and I don't think Dano gets the attention that he deserves. That's what
Riddler.
I meant. Sorry,
think
I meant to say
that-
Riddler, but I don't think Dano gets the attention he deserves in any film.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean, he
yeah,
has to
yeah.
some degree. He's been recognized by the Academy, but
He's really great.
he is
Mhm.
phenomenal. He will embody any role you give him. So he will do
Mhm.
something. I think he will do for the Riddler what Heath Ledger might have done for the Joker. I'm really believing that. I'm thinking we're
Yeah.
going to get
Yeah.
a performance
I
from
think-
him.
I feel like I think Paul Dano likes it like that though.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, because I think Paul Dano likes it like that because I think he can still live his life. He's one of those actors that are like very good at what they do, that nobody really recognizes them outside of like a movie poster or being on screen or something like that. He likes to live his life.
Right.
Sure.
If you look at Paul Dano's body of work, like the dude is a very good actor. Like, even in like smaller things, like he could be in one scene, you'll be like, yo, who is that dude who did the thing with the thing in the scene? Like he was so good, and like you don't realize how amazing he actually is. So, like I'm excited to see him as the Riddler. No offense to Colin Farrell, because I like Colin Farrell. He's really good when he's really good.
Mhm.
But I don't care about him as a penguin. He transformed himself, and nobody
Oh,
really
man.
knows. Nobody really knew it
I
was
think he
him.
looks
Like
good.
they did. He looks really good, but I'm more excited to see what Paul Dano does, because the fact that they're going to give Colin Farrell a TV show supposedly or something,
Right.
I don't care about. I just don't care about the penguin. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I think the
Maybe-
Penguin's
maybe
one of the most
we'll go
underrated
something
characters.
different.
I love.
I think
I don't know. I love it.
Colin Farrell,
Yeah.
like
Agree with
we've
Captain
known
Falcon,
about this for like years now with him being the Penguin, and it was just at this point it's kind of like it's old hat, and I'm really not interested too much in it. I hope he does a good job with it, but the scene in the diner with the coffee cup and it's got the question mark backing up. I'm like, okay, I want to see this. I want to see what Dano's going to do with the Riddler, and I want to see mind you, he can't ruin it. I mean, we've had Jim Carrey as the Riddler, so upwards and onwards.
Right.
It's kind of like let's just,
Yeah, yeah.
but
You only go up
but
from here, right? Yeah.
yeah, but honestly, I think with everything, I think I'm more interested in Selena Kyle. We had Anne Hathaway in the Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, which whatever.
She did all right.
She did all right, and I think it worked well within that Nolanverse.
Mhm.
But I want to see more of a comic book accurate Selena Kyle, and I think she has the potential to do that. So
Riddle me this, Batman. Alrighty then.
Alrighty then, yeah.
I think that this will be
Edward
this,
Digba.
this Penguin is based far more on the comic book Penguin and even from the Batman
for
universe a bit. And Penguin is an interesting character because from what I've heard, he changes based upon whatever they need him to do. He can be weird and supernatural, but he can also just be the gangster. And they went with the gangster one this time, and that works. Especially since the Riddler will be the more psychological and weird side of things in this. I think Farrell will do a good job. I think that when he hits good. If you've ever seen something like In Bruges, the dude knows how to act and he can do it really, really well. But then he plays Bullseye and you go, oh crap. Let's also talk about Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth. Like, this is an interesting choice. Not what I expected when I saw him on screen. I was like, hey, he's got that Pennyworth feel. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
I like Andy Serkis. I feel like, I don't know. For me, he's an actor which, like, I feel like he can't do no wrong until he does wrong. Until then, I'm gonna like everything that he does because, like, he's Caesar. Like, you can't not be Caesar and then like be trash. Because like I don't even think a lot of people knew that he was an actor for a long time, and I remember him in 13 going on 30, and he was great in that. And then you find out that he was Caesar, and the mocap that he did was amazing. I think I don't think he gets enough props as a like a fully fleshed out actor. Right? I think people don't know that he can be on screen as him, not himself, but as a character outside of mocap and be a very good actor. And I've seen him in other things, and I think he's great. So I'm excited to see the brand of, because he's a bit of a younger type. He's not like a very old. He didn't seem like an old Alfred to me. So I'm excited to see, because I feel like the age of Alfred kind of links with the age of Bruce, because he grew up, he raised him essentially. So it's like it's the Aunt May effect, I call it, because the new Aunt May is very young, and I love that. So I'm digging to see the funny. Hopefully he's funny, because to me, Alfred, in any incarnation of Alfred, he's funny. Cartoons, he's funny. Video games, he's funny. Like, so he has a very
I think he's both. I think he's there to like add some levity, but also like be like the conscience of that Bruce needs sometimes.
Yeah.
And
even though he's still
like,
Bruce, but it's a whole different discussion.
It's funny. See, I watched Keaton's Batman last night, something like that, and watching Alfred, especially when he brings Vicky Vale to the Batcave without Bruce's permission, it's a very different film, and like you can tell he's the conscience. He's like, no, dude, this girl likes you. You like her. Like, you're gonna. She's coming in. Bruce, like, you don't have a choice. And I think that happens with almost all the iterations. A couple other notable actors to talk about: Jeffrey Wright playing James Gordon. That should be phenomenal. Jeffrey Wright's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, stop it!
And
but
then
that just lets me know that Batgirl is either going to be black or she's still gonna be black, but she'll be like biracial or something like that. Well, but I'm just happy that we're getting like an African American Batgirl.
Right, I'm saying the Batgirl we're getting could easily work within this universe still if they decided to re-expand. If they decided to, they're saying they're not, but I don't trust them until they don't.
I know.
And then John Turturro
about is in it being recast. So
I don't want that. John Turturro's in it playing Carmine Falcone, which will be great. Turturro can do no wrong in my opinion. Well, except for Transformers 3.
Right.
That was contract.
I want to say one other thing about Alfred too was like he's a little more rough around the edges. He's not like this refined Alfred, and like that goes with like this history that Alfred has.
Right, it's more believable with him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, he looks like he could like handle himself actually. So
it's almost as if they took a note from the Gotham series and how Alfred was more of the mentor type, kind of like focusing Bruce's anger. And they're kind of like running with that. And I think Andy Serkis, if we're having that kind of Alfred, by all means, he looks it. Mind you, we love we love it. We've always liked the Alfred. I like the Dark Knight series Alfred. I thought Alfred from back in like the 1989 Batman, and how he was the most constant of all of those Batman films until we got
Yeah,
Mhm.
Batman and Robin. Um, and just taking bits and pieces of all of those Alfreds and kind of like maybe delving a little bit more into the comic history for him. It'll be good. I don't see a negative side unless Andy Serkis like completely just like phoned it in.
yeah,
Doubt it.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
doubt
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. Any other highlights you absolutely must hit from DC fandom? I know the obviously the Batman trailer was the biggest one.
The Harley Quinn animated series season 3. I'm so pumped about. Like, that show for me has been one of the best things that's come out of like DC fandom. Like, it's
Mhm.
if you have not seen the Harley Quinn animated series, you have
It's
to see it. It's
wildly
just,
over the top.
oh my god, it's
It's
just so
ridiculous.
fun. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so fun to see all these characters that we know and love in these like just ridiculous versions of
flip.
themselves.
I
Just
Like,
do
kind of flipped
love
up and like,
Ivy's
yeah.
plant friend. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah,
So
it's so good. And King Shark is amazing in it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can't get enough of all of those characters. Yeah,
the
and
only thing
Kaylee
about her
Cuoco did a great job.
and the only thing about her plant friend I don't like is the actor that voices him.
Oh, like
He's
Yeah.
not
him.
he's not my favorite. He's funny in the show, but he's not like my. He is the equivalent of like if anybody's ever seen Schitt's Creek, I believe his name is Chris Scott, but he plays I think it's Chris Scott, something like that.
Oh,
But
you're
he
talking
plays
about
Roland.
JB Smooth.
Yeah,
Frank the Plant.
JB
Yeah, he's
JB Smooth he's always the same every time I see him.
And a little over the top
Yeah.
and gross.
That's for sure.
Yes, and it irritates me sometimes, and it's the same as the guy who plays Roland Shit on Schitt's Creek. He plays the same character every time I see him, and it's just like
Thank you for the follow.
some people like right you don't get mad about it, but then some other people I get mad about it. So it's like it's just a thing.
I thought I was the only
Right?
one that when I saw JB Smooth that I was like, could you get this guy off the screen? But I'm glad that I have somebody else that feels the same way because he does. He's especially knowing everything. Even in movie 43 where everybody's over the top, he was too over the top. I was like,
oh
what?
man,
How?
somebody calm him down. Like somebody calm him down. Peter Spider Parker man one said the Suicide Squad killed the Justice League.
That looked good.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, here's
I want to
my
play
concern though.
I just love the
Here's my
concept of that.
concern. There were two things I want to talk about. One, that was one of them. If you didn't realize, I mean, if you didn't notice or whatever, when you with the Suicide Squad game, they didn't show any like actual gameplay. Now there's a concern that I have with that. I mean, this is Square Enix we're talking about, and
I thought it was
my
Rocksteady.
concern is, oh, is it Rocksteady? Okay, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
My concern with it is if they're focusing on the story of it and just trying to get people hyped up for the story, that's great. But my other fear is that maybe like the mechanics is going to be very similar to the Avengers game, and if that's the case, like how is this going to work? Because it didn't, like when Avengers the game came out, they focused on the story and didn't show the gameplay. And if they're going for this, co-op type game and the mechanics aren't really set, that's my biggest fear for the game. Because like I'm right now on stream, I've been playing through Avengers, and I gave it like a year after I played it the first time. Now that it's on Game Pass, and some of the things that bothered me about the gameplay on Avengers that they've had so much time to fix is still bad. And I'm really concerned, like if that's the case, that they're going to go, with that co-op type play with the Suicide Squad game is going to mess that up. So
I don't think so.
I, mean,
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I think you will.
I hope so. I'm being very cautiously optimistic.
That's fair.
But the other thing was the Batman animated series. I'm super excited about that. Mainly because this is they're porting into the it's basically the prequel series to the actual Batman animated series that we got, and it's talking about how he's more rough and ready. He's still working things out. They're keeping to that whole
it's like Batman Year 2 basically.
Type. Yeah, I mean, yes, and it's like the whole noir thing. They're keeping that styling, and basically, even though the cowl and stuff looks different, it's like he's leading up to being that Batman that we remembered in the animated series. And I love that they're doing that. And I think that just having free range to do that, it's gonna be fun. And on top of that, we're probably gonna see like origins of characters. And if we get Joker, I really hope they bring Mark Hamill back for this.
I think he might retire the character.
Yeah, but I really, let's face it, he could come back.
I agree. No, I don't think there's a single person that wouldn't say, let's get Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill back.
Yep.
But at the same time,
and
they're
Arlen
in their
Sorkin back for Harley
70s.
Quinn.
Like, are they wanting to spend the rest of their lives doing these animated characters? It's really a matter of what's best for them. So I will respect it. I've heard a lot of great Batmen in my life, even through the animated. I think they talked about who was going to play him.
I like what's the guy I like from the Batman movies? Who plays the new Batman in the DC movies?
Ben Affleck.
DC animated.
Oh, the DC animated movies. It depends because he changes. It changes.
I think it's different every time.
It might be Matt Bomer. No, Matt Bomer played the Superman. Sorry.
Matt Bomer's done Batman before.
No, he has, but it's another guy. Another white man's name. I can't remember his name though.
Let's see.
Actually, so that was kind of a cool thing in the there's an audio Batman story, and playing Batman. Damn, his name is escaping me right now. He was in Black Panther.
Martin Freeman.
Dang it! Why am I not remembering?
Who did he play in Black Panther?
Winston Duke.
Oh, okay.
And Winston Duke is doing Batman's voice in the audio.
Oh yes,
they're doing a thing on Spotify, right? Is what they said.
I think
it's like an audio story, an audio podcast.
It's an actual podcast.
Yeah.
That does sound kind of cool.
Also, did I mention the Harley Quinn animated series season 3?
Yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you are very excited.
Sure.
Just in case I didn't say anything about it. You guys know.
With that said, we got about 25 more minutes, and I think we should tackle this other film because we all did watch it, and I think it's a movie worth talking about. This movie is Nightbreed. This is a 1990 release. Clive Barker wrote and directed this for the screen, I believe. There are also comic books, and it was meant to be a larger story, but we'll get into that. Lala, what do you got for us?
Real quick, I remember the Batman guy that I've voiced that I would love to voice in the future is Jason O'Mara.
See, now
Jason O'Mara he played Batman and Son of Batman. He plays a very good Batman in my book. I think he would be a great addition to be like a normal voice Batman. That's all I want to say. All right, go ahead.
I see who that is. I know who you're talking about. All right, so Nightbreed, 1990. This movie stars. I had that right here, didn't I? Of course. It stars David Cronenberg, the director, actually, and then as you said, Craig Schaefer, who I always mistook back then for David Boreanaz. And I swear they got the idea for the character of Angel from this character from Boone, because he looks just like Angel in this movie. The look, I was like, dude, I guarantee this guy auditioned for Angel. I guarantee he did, because he looks the part.
He was too old at that time. No offense to Craig.
I don't know. He still kind of looks the same now. That's just me. Anyway.
No, he doesn't. Listen, I love Uncle Keith because he played Uncle Keith on One Tree Hill, but it's.
That's fair, but you do see what I'm saying. If Angel was made in the 80s, he could have totally played the character. So this is another visceral film, and this film follows a character who is having very strange dreams and who's being very, very unethically manipulated by his psychologist into believing in a place called Midian. And Midian is a place where the monsters live. And the monsters in this universe are not bad per se. They're just misunderstood evil creatures, if that makes any sense. And the reason I could say this, I've seen this movie several times. I collected this comic book when I was a teenager. I actually still have issues here. I should have pulled them out for this movie. And so I've seen this movie a lot of times. And so when all the movie things was like, what's a movie, that I've never seen that I should watch for this Halloween, extravaganza he's doing, this is one I actually suggested, due to the fact that it's bizarre, creepy, weird, and David Cronenberg acts in it, and the dude never gets to act, and he's creepy. So that's my initial take. So there it is. Lala, I told you could take this one. Please go ahead.
Okay, stop. I love weird movies. This is the weirdest of them all of these three. This movie was so freaking weird. This is a quintessential 90s film. It made no sense in all the sense at the same time. Okay?
Right.
Such a weird.
Yeah.
They were like, let's keep this fixed. It was like spaghetti. It was a spaghetti movie. You know? It was so good, right? Okay, so they just had unnecessary nudity. It was so 90s. I missed it so much. And it's like the story is just crazy. Like I wouldn't even know how to like pinpoint this story. But one, I love practical effects. Practical effects were so good. Like prosthetics on people. Like I'm trying to get into like practical effects. Like I'm working on creating like a cutthroat and all that type of stuff. Like I'm working on that type of stuff. Or maybe like the Joker line, but the Joker smile, I'm working on that too. So to see these practical effects, to see like the prosthetics, the foam that they were using that was painted, and all, it was really great. You know, you kind of forget that stuff exists in this CGI world that we live in. Yeah. So to see the different effects that were done, you know, people were retouching every 2 seconds, and it was just very, very well done. And to be honest, even the transformations from like the main character when he would get angry, his skin would transform, and he would have those intricate cuts in his face. I thought that was pretty cool.
When he like absorbed the spirit.
Yeah, and he would like calm down, and like you know his body would change. That effect going back to his normal self for being a literal 1990 film, which was probably filmed sometime in the 80s, wasn't that bad. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It still kind of holds up a little bit. It's not that bad, but the movie is just, excuse my language, is fucking weird. I had to say it.
Hey, remember, we're PG-13. We get a couple of those.
I know. I don't know. You know, I don't do it often. I do it like once every 15 months, you know, something like that. But it's such. Listen, the movie I found myself in the beginning of this film being like, oh man, what is this? What do these guys have me watching? I'm like, okay. I'm like, what's going on? Right. I kind of about the same way too. More into it, and I'm like, okay, so what happened? What this happened? Like, I think somewhere in between, I feel like they were rewriting as they were going, because all of a sudden there was a prophecy that we didn't know about towards the end of the movie. And then at the end, I was like, is there part 2? I really want this film to continue. I want a part 2 to see if he takes the Nightbreed to
It was supposed to.
But yeah. I know. And it's never going to happen. But I told the guys, I said, maybe it's up to me to have a part 2. But I make it in Hollywood. But I love this film. I will never watch it again. But I thoroughly enjoyed this film, because it's like Mario. It's like the Mario Brothers film. It's like, it's bad, but it's like when you enjoy it. Right,
that is a great analogy.
No, Mario Brothers is the kid version of Nightbreed. I'm with you on that.
Or Little Monsters.
Just saying.
Little Monsters.
Yeah.
Mr. Marvelite, what do you think of Nightbreed?
Okay, so this is based off of the novel by Clive Barker called Cabal. So if you are interested in knowing a little bit more of the story, you can go off of that. I have not read it myself, but I think snippets may have. Or
no, just the comic books.
At least the comic books are based off of it. So there is, like, you know, it's Clive Barker's opportunity to tell his story in film. Surprise, not a surprise. This film was actually nominated for an Academy Award for makeup effects. It was beat out by Dick Tracy, which going back and thinking about that, like, it makes sense, but at the same time, I'm like, I really feel like the makeup effects in this film were actually probably more on par.
And
it's
lasted.
Just that Dick Tracy
like,
was more. Yeah, it was more mainstream. This film did not fare well. It had an $11 million budget. It only got about $8.8 million. So
that's
really
worldwide too, by the way.
Right. Yeah, it was worldwide. So it started off well with like maybe $3.5 million on the opening weekend, but then it didn't fare much better after that.
I can tell you why, though. The movie didn't get received well because in '90 there was a huge push for censorship. huge push
Right.
for censorship in 1990, specifically 90 and 91. And this is the kind of movie that was going way past what they wanted to see. And we had already gone through the slasher 80s films. And so this movie hit a brick wall because Clive Barker, he made Hellraiser, but people weren't like, woohoo, Hellraiser. It was like fringe fans that were like, woo, Hellraiser. And so he was already a fringe person and has still been a fringe person. So I think that's part of the reason. Not only that, but the studio got so involved, as you said, it was based upon the book, and he wrote it with that in mind. And then they made him cut the crap out of this movie to a point where they had to re-release it because it was cut so badly. Like Lala said, she didn't get it because that's what the studio did to it. If you watch the original vision that Barker had, which I do think maybe in the future we should all approach that and watch it again, just that version, and reassess how we feel about the film, just to see. We can talk about that off screen. But...
It's the Barker cut. No, I'm sorry.
No, very much so. So literally, if you go back and like looking at the trivia for this thing, what was interesting was the studio had their way with the film, and that's why there's a lot of the plot holes. And I feel like it kind of ended up the way it did, where there was like this like anticipation of maybe there'd be another film, but then like there were so many issues, like you said, like it felt like it was like kind of rewritten halfway through because they went back and they cut a lot of stuff out. They were able. There was a pull to have a director's cut, and at some point they did find the original film, and I think it was re-released, and that was a little bit better. It fared better than the
Cabal
version.
Cut.
Right. So yeah. So again, I haven't seen that. I do want to see that because I want to give this film a chance. I think it was very ambitious, and again, the practical effects were amazing. The creature effects, the fawn-like child creature when you first see that she brings in, the Baphomet, the being that's there, like you can tell there was a lot of thought in creating this world, but it wasn't there wasn't a lot in the film like telling more than this Decker character, which I think was probably the most thinnest created character in the whole thing. Like there's all this motivation where he thinks that he's to cleanse, he's cleansing things, like he's wiping out the families, the breeders he called them, and then he feels like his purpose is to wipe out these mutants for no other reason. And if it's interesting because like IMDb they explain them as mutants, and I think that's it's a gross understatement. These are ancient beings there, and I was telling we were talking Black Marvel beforehand, and when they pull the term Midian was very reminiscent because they even use scripture that points to the destruction of Midian in the Old Testament. And so there's this idea that when it was talking about destroy every man, woman, and creature, that these were part of the inhabitants of the city of Midian, which scripture doesn't support that, but that's fine. And so there's this idea of them being an ancient race of people that were misunderstood and persecuted by the religious majority at the time. And so there is a great premise for this to be delved deeper and having a deeper thing. I just think that, unfortunately it got the 90s treatment. And, if this film would never have done have happened, and they may have tried to do this like later on, like even like around this time, there probably would have been a lot more like, I think this would have fared better maybe more as a mini series, if not like a streaming service series, because they could kind of take their time explaining it.
Just don't put it on Netflix because they'll cancel it at season 3.
Right.
It's funny. It's funny you say that because there's talk of them doing a series version of this, and it really being a focus of like, the metaphor of human rights and like, and also discrimination and civil rights and all that kind of stuff. So
that's a good segue. Give us your take. All the movie things.
Oh, it was great. Like it was ridiculous, over the top. But yeah, like I mean, I can definitely see, especially after Mr. Marvelite and Black Girl Marvel talking about like how it was like pretty chopped up, and like I guess the studio they were trying to fit it into something that they thought the story was, and not really what Clive Barker, like what his vision was. it's funny because like there were some bits where I was kind of like, okay, like I had like pushed through because it felt clunky at parts. But overall, it felt really great, and I just love the whole idea of this whole society of creatures, and even like children. There's even like families down there, and they're just trying to like live their life, in secret. And of course, us, despicable humans, we want to destroy it, and get rid of it because it's different. And so the metaphor is already there, and they want to kind of like dig more into that
Mhm.
with a series, I think. Yeah, there was supposed to be a sequel. I felt like I didn't watch the Cabal cut, but I still felt like this one, like knowing that they wanted to do a sequel, I still felt like this one ended with, oh yeah, they
Yeah.
totally left it open for, yeah, like we could totally see a sequel.
Well, he even at the
like
very end, he
his
talks
name
about the
changes to
prophecy,
Cabal.
like you've got to fulfill, you've got
Yeah.
to find me, like come find
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And like the thing is, like all these creatures have lost their home. They're like living in this barn or whatever right now, and like he's
They're
kind of
waiting for
like,
him to come.
yeah,
And they're
exactly. He's
just
like presented as
waiting
this
on him.
leader, and like, yeah.
Just waiting on him. His girl just
Yeah.
standing there posing.
Yeah, on top of that like hill or whatever. And like,
Can we talk
Yeah,
about
it
the
was so-
fact that? So you got to remember, when I saw this movie for the first time, I was 13. I saw this not in theater, but let's look at that guy right there. This fella. He used to scare the ever living crap out of me when I was a kid.
oh, that
and
dude. Yeah.
the fact that he was just like fresh
Funny.
meat and he would like huff and puff, like he freaked me out. So the creature effects, especially in 1990, were so good that it made people feel the way that Mandy makes you feel.
It was unique.
It
yeah,
was.
like I felt like this was a very like unique film. And like Clive Barker was definitely, you could tell he had a vision. Like even with it being a kind of like clunky and chopped up, I could tell like Clive Barker had this whole like very clear vision of what he wanted to say with this, and like where he wanted to go. And it was just unfortunate, like
Yeah.
time that
Studios,
was in.
man.
I think now it'd be great to like
I agree.
see a miniseries or something.
Can we talk about the fact that I think Clive Barker really doesn't like his therapist?
No, he doesn't.
Right.
Not at all.
No.
Not even a little.
Not at all. He didn't even give this guy a backstory. He immediately made him the bad person. Like we don't even understand.
He
How
has
he
no
knows
motivation.
it's
He's
like-
just evil. Yeah.
Like nah.
He doesn't have any motivation. How does he know about Midian? Why does he even think there's something that's in a guy's brain?
I mean, he's
even
been doing
exist,
therapy
like-
sessions with him for a year or two, so he learned about it from Boone. So, and he believed him. I don't know why he believed
No,
him.
but that's what I'm saying. Though. Like, why did you believe it? Like, did your parents die in Midian or something like that? Like, there's nothing
Yeah. Like,
connected
what's the
to why he believes that this
connection?
person that
I hate
he's a
these
therapist
creatures so
to,
much.
Right.
right? He's having dreams that should actually exist. And because with the guy, I love that the guy in the shop was like, he was like, why do you want to hurt them? Like, did you try to join them and they rejected you? Like, that would have been a good thing for me. I was like, okay. I'm like, did they reject you in the next time? And he's just like, no, I just want to kill him. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot to believe on faith, though. Just to believe on faith that this like exists because it's in this guy's brain.
Right.
And then
His character was
I
also
wish we knew
convenient.
about the prophecy. Very much so. Because how are you like?
Those
You wanna
cops
take down
did
these, like,
anything he asked.
bullshit-
Everything he asked, they did. Everything.
Well,
Oh my gosh! And then why did you kill the main cop? Like, why? Like, there were barely black people in this movie, and you say were black, they were creatures. So you just kind of like threw it up in the air.
So he had to kill
And why
Captain
did he kill the
Panaka, right, from episode 1. Why did he have to do that?
Stop.
So for me, Decker was when I first watched it without thinking about it, I felt Decker was such a one-dimensional character, and then I realized that he actually had more in his wheelhouse than I had anticipated. He didn't necessarily believe in Midian. He believed that it was what was our main our hero's name? Boone. It was Boone.
Yeah.
It was Boone's like focus, and the
Well,
things that he
Cabal
said
now.
was Cabal. It was those things that he used as ammunition to say he was the one that did the murders that Decker had done. That he was just using him as a patsy.
Sure.
And as
Right.
he's framing him for those murders, the discovery of Boone, coming back to life and then going to Midian and seeing these creatures, he now has the ability to use that manipulation that he did, saying Boone was the murderer, to go get an entire bloodbath going where you have the police and you think about Decker had no concern over who lived or died in that battle. He was just enjoying the death of it all. And he did it in the most visible ways possible. I mean, when you look at the hotel room, you look what he did to the girl that was waiting by the car. You know, there are these. It's very
Girl.
It's very
Poor Cheryl.
like putting the head on the table and then coming up behind the girl. It was very much the theatrics of the murders that he was feeding on. It was that fear.
That's his mask would lead to that as well. That the button-eyed mask.
Right, which is exactly why, like, the kids saw him. The mother does, and you see this idea where this kid is just looking. You know, that one murder at the beginning where he's just slowly walking up the steps, and the kid's just stuck there in fear. You know, and he's just feeding off that the whole time he goes up the stairs, and it cuts off.
Look at Marvelite bringing in the all those details for that character. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, it struck me that as much as I hated the Decker character, like he didn't seem to have content, but there was a lot of content to him.
It was just implied content.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I like it.
But I still don't understand why he would believe this guy about this world.
He did.
It seemed like
I don't think he believed until he thought that because when they said, you know, Decker's dead, or when he said Boone is dead in the police station, like he just thought that somehow he survived the shooting, and he didn't want Boone like talking about what was going on. Because like it was a loose end for him, and then when he saw him alive with these creatures and what Boone turned into, like he was fascinated with the idea: can they die? Like it was almost like he had all of this information of Boone's dreams and what he knew of Midian, and then to see it confirmed, like he knew where to go with it from that point. I don't think he believed it until after he saw the creatures.
He even stabbed Boone and then realized nothing was going to happen to him.
Yeah.
So. No, I like that. I think Marvelite nails it on the head there. I think that that the story is just a serial killer using his patient to cover his tracks, and that just happens to coincide with what's going on with Boone and Midian in the dreams, and those two things just kind of follow to a head. I think that makes perfect sense. I don't think that it's well done by the studio. I think it probably would have been even more fleshed out.
Well, I still don't understand why he was so wanting to kill, like to get rid of Midian altogether. These creatures.
Yeah.
I understand the serial killer aspect, but yeah.
But still, it's like, why bother? I just realized that what's his name? David Cronenberg is he was on a couple of episodes of Alias. And I'm just noticing that.
Alias?
Yeah, Alias with Jennifer Garner. He played a doctor. He played I think in like season 2, he played, or 3 or something like that. He played a doctor that like experimented on her.
That would make sense. Yeah. He likes playing those characters, and I swear it was him and Clive Barker at a party one night, and Clive was like, "Dude, I'm making this movie. I've been wanting to make Cabal into a movie." Right. And Cronenberg was like, "Oh, and there's a psychologist who's a murderer. I'll play that." And like, I swear that's how it went.
I'll play that character.
I will play that character, he said, and they let him because he had already established himself through the '80s. He's a well-established director. That's just my headcanon about how that conversation went. Because it, you never know. Cronenberg is an interesting person because I don't think he's a very good actor. I think he did this part well, but I think he was just playing evil, and I think there's a bit of just him in this character. He's a far better director, but I do like him in this role. Like, I think this role is his. It fits him. I don't know. That's just me, but I don't know. He was the one element that I felt, because he was just kind of monotone. He didn't have much emotion, but again, that's kind of the point of a serial killer. You don't want them to have much emotion. So I think that was the right pick, but I don't know. We have about 4 or 5 more minutes. 3 more minutes. Why don't we give our reviews real quick? Mr. Marvelite, 1 to 10. What do you think?
Film had a lot of potential, but again, I think the cut that we saw does, garner some criticism. I think that the cinematics, where it comes to like the practical effects, there was a lot of potential there, but it's not a great film. In my mind, it's much better than Mandy. But it's at the same time, I would rather I would rather, hold a higher scoring for like, maybe the Cabal cut or if they do something down the road. I think the story could be told, and I think there's a lot of potential to it. I actually kind of thought it was interesting because I felt like it got deeper when there was the discussion with Baphomet and Boone. And so like I wanted to know more of that. But I'd probably say maybe I'd give it, I want to say 6.5. Again, better than Mandy. A lot of potential. I think that the nudity was gratuitous and not necessary, but at the same time, like it could fare better. I don't think I'd go back and watch this again unless I'm watching the different cut. But definitely it's got some viewing, viewing interest, at least to watch once.
All right, Mr. All the Movie Things.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
All right.
Actually, so yeah, just because the criticisms like Mr. Marvelite mentioned, if the studio didn't get their hands on it, it probably would have been a better film for sure.
It's a story
but
that
I mean,
is told
yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah,
Studios,
and just
leave it alone.
Oh yeah, no, totally, exactly. I mean, I literally just talked about that in the chat about Warner Brothers, being notorious for doing that with DC properties, but but yeah, like the practical effects and the creature effects and makeup effects are just pretty phenomenal. I mean, still hold up pretty well today. So yeah,
nice.
7.5.
Black Girl Marvel.
Yeah.
Miss Black Girl.
Ms. Black Girl Marvel.
All right. Listen, I thought you were gonna say Mr. Black Girl. I really thought you were gonna say that. Would be great. Yeah, I thought that would have been great. I give this film a 7. I thoroughly enjoyed this film, and like I said, I like bad movies, and I still feel like, again, like I didn't research this like Mr. Marvel I did, but but I knew something was off. I was like they're either writing this as they go, or somebody's taking parts out and be like, no, we need to do this again. Like I knew something was also for Mr. Marvel, like to say that like the studio had a hand in it, which shows that the studio's been ruining movies since the dawn of time. So it kind of makes sense, like how it was kind of choppy through some, or it seems like, okay, now it seems like a different story because we didn't get the prophecy line until the end, right? Because I never understood why this dude was having dreams of a place that eventually turned out to be real, and then you find out towards the end when the place is being destroyed that he's a part of a prophecy, and it's like, right. Nobody, you could have told us at the moment he stepped foot on Midian, like that would have been a great little tidbit to know to carry us throughout the whole thing. But I thought it was a good film. I keep saying it, and I know it's not going to happen, but I really want a part 2 because I feel like there's just way more. There's more to tell in the story because like that's literally how they set it up for like a part 2, and I just think everybody hit their mark. I think everybody played their part very well, and there was something I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it is. But I just know that I enjoyed this. Oh, there is on Amazon Prime, there is a director's cut. I think I might have to watch it because they say that the director's cut, the ending is kind of different. I don't really think it is, but I think it's different because there's an ending on Wikipedia that I don't think is that I saw when I watched the original cut. So I kind of want to watch the director's cut to see what they brought in, what they missed, all that kind of stuff. So like a solid 7, Snitty.
A solid 7, Snitty. And Mr. Snidbits says a 7 as well. I rated this movie a 7 a long time ago. Basically, due to everything that has already been said, the studio's involvement really ruined it. The comic books are really neat. They get really into the story and the characters, especially from the Midian side of things. You actually get to get into some really interesting like crossover storylines and very comic booky in that sense. I definitely still feel like it's a 7. I felt the same way I watched it this time as I did last time, and I am as interested as everyone else to see the other version. So it looks like we may here in the future, probably not this month, but in the future, do a re-review of Nightbreed, the director's cut.
Or maybe we'll just do the director cut episode where we watch the director cut of certain.
I like that. It's a director's cut episode coming soon to a real study near you. That being said, that is the end of the show, and it has been a good one. We will be back. We will be back. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just kind of threw me out there because of it. It's stuck in my head because of this movie. And Black Marvel mentioned about like practical effects and like costumes and stuff. If you guys are interested in, especially with it being spooky season, the best like practical effect that you can get to do like scars, like the Joker scars or whatever, is a thing called rigid collodium. You can buy it from Mayron and like the major like places that do makeup effects. And when you put it on your skin, you just brush it on. It actually creates the scars on your face or anywhere you put them on your skin. So that's just out there, as an idea.
Cool.
Little tidbit.
I like that. It's a little snidbit for you.
Yeah.
And so next week we'll be covering, I believe, Hereditary is on the list. As well as I saw your review on it. I haven't watched it yet, so I didn't go through it too much. But I'm trying to get to our list. So it'll be Dune, Hereditary, and The Conjuring next week. And I do want to do one last thing, which is shout out Cell Phone Wallet and Keys. He doesn't ever get to be here or have the pre-review, but he is our movie voice guy. He does our promos, he does our intro, and he's got all sorts of great voices. And we'll leave you here with one.
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try and take over the world.
You guys didn't hear it, but it was Pinky in the brain. With that said, we are going to raid somebody. This is Darth Cadus, I think is what it is. I met them on TikTok a long time ago, so I haven't talked to them, but here we go. We're going to see what that raid is like. Otherwise, you guys have a great night. Thanks for coming to the Real Study.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Stay for the raid if you can. Boop, boop, boop. Here it goes. Good night.
I wish I could figure out how to one of these things.